Welcome to a journey that could change the way you speak English forever. If you've ever dreamed of speaking English with confidence, holding conversations without hesitation, and finally feeling like you can express yourself freely in the global language, you're in the right place. Because in the next few minutes I'm going to show you how you can start speaking English like a pro in just 7 days. Yes, 7 days might sound impossible, but once you understand the process, the mindset, and the techniques, you'll realize that fluency isn't about years of study, it's about how you train, how you practice, and how you unlock the confidence that's already inside you. Think for a moment about where you are now. Maybe you've been learning English for years, maybe you studied it in school, maybe you've been watching movies with subtitles, memorizing grammar rules, or repeating vocabulary lists. And yet when the moment comes to actually speak, you freeze. Your mind goes blank, you worry about mistakes, about your accent, about whether people will judge you, and so you hold back, even though you have the words somewhere in your mind. Now imagine a different version of yourself. Picture yourself in a meeting, confidently presenting your ideas in English. Imagine traveling to another country, chatting easily with locals, or speaking with colleagues from around the world without feeling nervous. Imagine being able to think in English, to respond quickly, to laugh, to tell stories, to make connections, all without translating in your head. That's the version of you we're working toward, and the best part, it's much closer than you think. Here's the truth that most learners don't realize: fluency isn't about being perfect. The most successful English speakers aren't the ones who know every grammar rule or the ones who memorize the most vocabulary, they're the ones who practice without fear. They're the ones who make mistakes, learn from them, and keep going. They're the ones who see English not as a subject in school, but as a living tool to connect with the world. And that's exactly what I want for you. Let's face it, traditional methods don't work for most people. Think back to your school days. How many hours did you spend writing grammar exercises, translating sentences, or filling in blanks? And how much of that actually helped you speak with confidence? Probably not much. That's because fluency doesn't come from textbooks alone. Fluency comes from using English in real situations, from immersing yourself in the language, and from training your brain to think directly in English instead of constantly translating. So in this journey, we're going to do things differently. Over the next 7 days, I'll guide you through a process that combines mindset, immersion, and active practice. You won't just learn about English, you'll actually start living it. We'll break down the fears that hold you back, replace them with confidence, and build daily habits that transform your speaking skills faster than you thought possible. Now let's talk about fear for a moment, because this is where most learners struggle. Fear is the number one reason people can't speak English fluently. Fear of mistakes, fear of sounding foolish, fear of being judged. But here's something powerful: mistakes are not the enemy, they're your greatest teacher. Every fluent speaker you admire has made thousands of mistakes. The difference is that they didn't stop. They embraced the process, and over time, those mistakes turned into mastery. Think about how you learned your first language. You didn't memorize grammar rules before you spoke your first words. You didn't study textbooks before you started talking. You listened, you repeated, you made mistakes, and you improved. English is no different. You already have the ability to learn this way. It's about giving yourself permission to do it again, even as an adult. So how do we begin? The first step is to change the way you see fluency. Fluency is not perfection. It's not about speaking without a single pause or error. Fluency means being able to communicate your thoughts clearly and naturally. It means being able to have conversations where both you and the other person understand each other. It means having the confidence to speak even when your grammar isn't perfect, because communication matters far more than accuracy. Perfection can come later, but communication starts now. This brings us to the idea of immersion. To truly make progress in 7 days, you need to surround yourself with English, not just for a few minutes. Not just once in a while, but every single day. Immersion doesn't mean moving to another country, it means creating an English environment wherever you are. Change the language on your phone and computer, follow English-speaking channels on YouTube, listen to podcasts, music or audiobooks in English, talk to yourself in English while you go about your day. The more you expose yourself, the faster your brain adapts. Now I know what you're thinking: 7 days still sounds unrealistic. But here's the secret: in 7 days, you won't become a native speaker. But you can transform the way you feel about English, you can unlock a new level of confidence. You can begin to think in English and express yourself without fear. In other words, 7 days is enough to kickstart a transformation that will continue long after. It's the spark that sets the fire, and let's add one more truth: the journey will not always feel easy. There will be moments of doubt, there will be times when you feel stuck or frustrated, but that's where the growth happens. Think of it like going to the gym. The first few days feel tough, your muscles ache, you wonder if you're doing it right, you question whether it's worth it. But if you keep showing up, even for a short time each day, you start to see progress. Your body adapts, and soon what once felt impossible becomes natural. Learning English is exactly the same. Consistency matters far more than intensity. So as we begin this 7-day journey, I want you to make a decision right now. Decide that you will commit, even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes a day. Decide that you will speak, even if you make mistakes. Decide that you will listen, read, and think in English every chance you get. Because that decision, more than any technique, is what will change everything. In the next section, we'll dive into the specific steps you need to follow day by day to build fluency faster than you ever thought possible. We'll talk about how to structure your practice, how to train your brain to think in English, and how to overcome the fears that have held you back until now. Get ready, because the next stage of this journey is where the real transformation begins. Now that you've made the decision to commit to this journey, let's get practical. Because motivation is powerful, but it needs to be paired with action. Over the next 7 days, your goal is not to memorize endless grammar rules or spend hours buried in textbooks. Your goal is to create momentum, to break the cycle of fear and hesitation, and to replace it with daily habits that push you toward fluency. Let's start with a simple truth: what you do every day matters far more than what you do once in a while. Think about exercise again. If you go to the gym once a week for 3 hours, you'll make little progress. But if you train for just 20 minutes a day, consistently, your body changes. The same principle applies here. That's why each day of this 7-day journey has a focus. Each day you'll train a different muscle of English: listening, speaking, reading, vocabulary, confidence, and thinking directly in English. Day 1 is about breaking fear. On the first day I want you to focus on speaking, even if it feels uncomfortable. Talk to yourself out loud, narrate your actions as you cook, clean, or walk. For example, if you're making tea, say, "I'm boiling water, I'm adding sugar, I'm pouring the tea." At first it might feel silly, but what you're doing is training your brain to activate English without waiting for a perfect situation. You're giving yourself permission to speak, even when nobody is listening. By the end of day 1, you'll notice that speaking out loud already feels more natural. Day 2 is all about listening. Listening is the foundation of speaking, because the more you hear natural English, the more your brain learns the rhythm, intonation, and flow of the language. But here's the secret: you don't have to listen to boring lessons. Choose content you genuinely enjoy. Maybe it's a podcast about technology, maybe it's an English song you love, maybe it's a YouTube video about cooking. The key is to make listening enjoyable, because when you enjoy it, you'll do it more often. On this day, commit to at least 1 hour of listening, broken into small chunks if you like. Put on English while commuting, cooking, or exercising. Let the sounds of English become part of your environment. Day 3 focuses on reading. Reading is often underestimated, but it's one of the most powerful ways to absorb vocabulary and grammar naturally. When you read in English, your brain starts to recognize patterns without you even realizing it. The goal isn't to understand every single word, but to grasp the overall meaning. If you enjoy sports, read an article about your favorite team. If you love stories, read a short graded reader designed for English learners. Spend at least 30 minutes reading something that interests you. When you encounter new words, don't stop every time, underline them, finish the text, and then look them up afterward. This way, you keep your flow and avoid frustration. Day 4 is about vocabulary. But instead of memorizing random word lists, you'll learn vocabulary in context. Choose a theme, like travel, food, emotions, or work, and learn 10 to 15 words related to that theme. For example, if the theme is travel, your words might include airport, luggage, passport, departure, and so on. Write them down, create sentences, and use them out loud. The reason this works better than isolated lists is that your brain remembers connected words more easily. By focusing on themes, you're building clusters of vocabulary that you can actually use in real conversations. Day 5 is where we tackle confidence head on. Confidence is often the invisible barrier that stops learners from improving. On this day, your task is to have at least one real conversation in English, no matter how short. It could be with a friend, a colleague, or even an online language partner. If you don't have anyone to speak with, record yourself talking about your day, and then listen back. Don't worry about mistakes. Remember, mistakes are proof that you're learning. What matters is that you practice expressing your ideas. Speak loudly, clearly, and with conviction. Even if you're not sure of every word, act as if you are. Confidence grows from action, not from waiting until you're ready. Day 6 is about thinking directly in English. This is a game changer. Most learners slow themselves down by translating from their native language into English. The result is hesitation, awkward sentences, and frustration. To break this habit, you need to train your brain to think directly in English. Start small. When you wake up, tell yourself in English, I need to brush my teeth. I'm going to eat breakfast. When you look around your room, name the objects in English: bed, window, chair, laptop. Throughout the day, challenge yourself to describe your actions and thoughts in English, without switching back to your native language. It might feel strange at first, but with practice, your brain adapts. Finally, day 7 brings it all together. This is the day of integration. You'll combine speaking, listening, reading and thinking into a single immersive experience. Spend the day living as much of your life as possible in English. Listen to English podcasts, read an article, speak with someone, and think in English as you go about your activities. By the end of this day, you'll realize something powerful: you are already capable of more than you thought. You've built momentum, broken fear, and created habits that, if continued, will take you far beyond 7 days. Now let's address a common objection. Some of you might be thinking, this all sounds great, but I don't have time. The truth is, you don't need hours every day. Even 10 to 15 minutes of focused practice can create change, as long as you do it consistently. Think of it this way: do you have time to scroll on your phone? Do you have time to listen to music? Do you have time to watch a short video? If the answer is yes, then you have time for English. The key is to replace some of your passive habits with intentional ones. Listen to music in English instead of your native language. Watch one video in English instead of another in your own language. Little changes create big results. And here's another secret: it's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. For example, instead of memorizing 50 random words, learn 10 words connected to a theme, and actually use them. Instead of reading a whole book and giving up halfway, read a short article and finish it. Instead of listening passively to hours of English, listen actively for 10 minutes and repeat what you hear. By being smart with your practice, you'll see results much faster. As you go through these 7 days, you'll notice shifts happening inside you. At first, you might feel awkward speaking to yourself. By day 3, you'll find that reading is easier than you expected. By day 5, you'll notice that your confidence is starting to grow. By day 7, you'll catch yourself thinking in English without trying. These small victories are the signs that transformation is happening. Celebrate them, because they're proof that you're on the right path, and remember, this is just the beginning. 7 days is not the end of your journey, it's the launchpad. If you continue with these habits beyond the first week, your fluency will continue to grow, your vocabulary will expand, and your confidence will reach new levels. Think of these 7 days as the foundation of a building. Once the foundation is strong, you can keep building higher and higher. By now you've experienced what happens when you commit to consistent practice for just 7 days. You've spoken out loud, listened with focus, read with curiosity, built vocabulary through themes, and pushed yourself into moments of confidence. You've started to think directly in English, and you've begun to see what's possible when you immerse yourself daily, but the journey doesn't stop here. To truly speak English like a pro, you need to refine your skills so that your communication sounds natural, authentic, and powerful. That's what we'll focus on now. First, let's talk about pronunciation. You can know thousands of words, but if people can't understand you, communication breaks down. The goal isn't to erase your accent, Your accent is part of who you are, the goal is clarity. One of the most effective techniques for improving pronunciation is called shadowing. Here's how it works: choose a short clip of a native speaker, maybe a TED Talk, a YouTube video, or even a movie line. Play a sentence, pause, and then repeat it exactly as you heard it. Pay attention not just to the words but to the rhythm, stress, and intonation. Then play the next sentence and repeat. Over time, shadowing trains your mouth to produce the sounds naturally and your ear to catch subtle differences. 10 minutes a day of shadowing can transform the way you sound. Another powerful strategy is recording yourself. Many learners avoid this because it feels uncomfortable, but it's incredibly effective. When you listen to yourself, you notice mistakes you didn't realize you were making. You hear where your pronunciation is unclear, and you become more aware of your rhythm and tone. Try recording a short paragraph every day and comparing it to a native speaker reading the same text. This simple practice will help you close the gap between how you sound now and how you want to sound. Next, let's move to vocabulary expansion. At this stage, you're no longer satisfied with just the basics. To sound like a pro, you need flexibility. This means having synonyms ready so you don't repeat the same word again and again. For example, instead of always saying good, you can say fantastic, brilliant, wonderful, or excellent. Instead of always saying bad, you can use terrible, awful, or disastrous. This variety makes your English sound richer and more professional. The easiest way to practice this is to choose one common word you use often, find 5 synonyms, and challenge yourself to use them in sentences throughout the day. Closely related to vocabulary are phrasal verbs and idioms. Native speakers use these all the time, and they can make your speech sound much more natural. For example, instead of saying cancel, you might say call off. Instead of saying continue, you could say carry on. Idioms work the same way. Saying I'm under the weather instead of I'm sick shows that you understand cultural expressions. Don't overwhelm yourself with hundreds of idioms at once. Learn 5 each week and focus on actually using them. Little by little, they'll become part of your natural speech. Now let's talk about understanding accents. English is a global language, and you'll hear it spoken in countless ways: British, American, Australian, Indian, Nigerian, and many more. If you only train your ear for one accent, you'll feel lost when you hear another. To build true global fluency, expose yourself to different accents regularly, watch British TV shows, listen to American podcasts, follow Australian YouTubers, and so on. Pay attention to differences in pronunciation and vocabulary. For example, lift in British English is elevator in American English. The more exposure you have, the more adaptable you become, and that's what makes you sound like a pro in international contexts. But fluency is not only about words, it's also about body language and confidence. Think about the last time you listened to a great speaker. What impressed you wasn't just what they said, but how they said it. Their posture, their gestures, their eye contact, all of it made their communication more powerful. When you speak English, stand tall, use your hands naturally, look confident, even if you're nervous inside. Your body sends signals to your mind, and when you act confident, you start to feel confident. Combine this with clear speech, and people will listen to you with respect. At this point, let's address motivation, because every learner faces moments of doubt. There will be days when you don't feel like practicing. There will be times when you feel like you're not improving. But here's the truth: progress in language learning is often invisible until suddenly it becomes obvious. You might feel stuck for weeks, and then one day you realize you understood an entire podcast, or you had a conversation without translating in your head. That's how growth works. It's quiet until it shows itself loudly. Trust the process. Keep going even when it feels slow, because consistency always wins. One way to stay motivated is to track your progress. Record yourself once a week and listen back after a month. You'll hear the difference. Keep a journal in English and read your entries weeks later to see how your writing has improved. Celebrate small wins: your first full conversation, the first time you understood a movie without subtitles, the first time someone complimented your English. These moments are proof that you're moving forward. Another way to stay on track is to join a community. Learning alone can feel isolating, but when you surround yourself with others who share the same goal, your motivation grows. Find an online group, a WhatsApp chat, or a language exchange partner. Share your progress, encourage others, and hold each other accountable. Fluency is not just a skill, it's a journey best traveled with others. And finally, let's end where we began, with the vision of you speaking English like a pro. Right now, imagine yourself again. Picture the future version of you walking into a room full of people from around the world and starting a conversation without hesitation.